podcast contains potentially adult language, adult themes, definitely drinking, and possibly sexual context. Listener discretion is advised. Okay, we're recording. Woo! Okay, I get really excited at the beginning of every show. It's very fun. Okay, welcome to Drinking with Authors. I'm your host, Erica Lance. My co-host today is
Mark Muncy from Erie, Florida. How y'all doing?
Hey. And then our guest today is Rick Heinz. I'm super excited, and I'm going to warn everybody that Mark warned me he was going to do his fangirl thing, so just be prepared for that, everybody who's listening. So let's talk about what we're drinking. So I am drinking 19 Crimes Uprising. I love these. I did finally find the Snoop Dogg bottle from 19 Crimes, by the way. It's a really good red blend. I'm not going to lie. Anyway, I only found 2 bottles. Mark, what are you drinking for us tonight?
As always, because of my epilepsy meds, I'm having Publix purified spring water tonight, so that it doesn't mix badly with my with the epilepsy meds. But they are kicking in, so this should be a fun show anyway.
I hear it's got a very refined taste. That
it's a good week. Yes,
it's a good week, right?
I'll sniff the cap. Yeah, good nose.
Rick, what are you drinking?
So
I think that's vodka, by the way. This bullshit Publix water stuff. He's like, I can't drink it.
It's the fine taste of it's aged in a fluoride barrel, right? No, I'm drinking Misbehavin' Meads, the vanilla blue bourbon barrel aged honey mead.
Well, that sounds amazing.
It is quite. I'm a mead fan, so this is delicious. And
I have a birthday tradition. Is every year for my birthday, I started doing this because when I tell the whole story, you'll understand why. Is I go to Ren Fair, and I go. And I invite all of my friends, because then you don't actually have to hang out with people for the whole time. Like, you can see them and you can have some fun, and like you see the mud chicks or whatever, but washing little wenches. But you don't have to be like in a confined space with people for hours. Like, you go, and they have these things that are called bee stings, which is half mead, half cider.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's like the death, because I go from bar to bar drinking these things. It is the best thing ever.
I have my Ren Fair horn somewhere with the ridiculously expensive outfit that I bought when I was younger at Ren Fair, so I could be all floppy with my like giant hat and stuff.
Yeah.
But no, meads. This bourbon aged blueberry mead is freaking criminally good. So it is a special occasion beverage that I have recently found has become an every week beverage as well, since I'm stuck at home.
Special occasion,
right? Every weekend I get done with work and Friday, it's like, yeah, no, okay. The worst part was I used to have to order it specialty to get here, because I had it at a crazy hipster bar in Chicago once, and I was like, I spent forever trying to track this thing down. And then there's this small indie brewery company that opened up a shop like 6 doors down from my apartment in where I live. So now I just walk down 6 doors and can pick up a bottle. That ease of access has not been good for me.
I feel that way. Like, I'm a huge In-N-Out Burger fan, and I already know if there was an In-N-Out Burger anywhere near where I lived, it would be fucking terrible. Like, it would be the worst thing in the world.
That's if they opened a Popeye's chicken near me, the chicken would become an endangered species immediately. It would just
yeah. No, it's like you're like, look how cool I can walk to this thing, and then a few, million pounds and drunk out instances later, you're like, this is not so cool.
Why do you have to enable me? Clearly, the story, you should know that when my special occasions in life are happening, and you should only carry this onto those days.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what you write. Rick, tell the audience what you write.
So I am in a few different spaces. My primary job as a writer is to write sarcastic urban fantasy about the end of the world. My novel series is called The Seventh Age Dawn, and it is the pitch of my series is The Illuminati, the Masons, and other secret societies, they've had magic for centuries. And what happens in Chicago when a group of anarchists decide to level the playing field by giving that shit to everybody in the world? Special abilities can be yours. You can cure yourself of cancer or throw fireballs down Lower Wecker Drive. All you have to do is summon a demon, kill it, and eat its heart.
Oh, that's all. That's
right.
all you have to do.
That's all you can do. And nothing can possibly go wrong when the entire world starts attempting this. So it is a sarcastic urban fantasy about the end of the world. And my sequel, Dystopia, which is coming out next year, is about what happens when magic has returned and now companies are branding it. Imagine like Starbucks grinding up actual unicorns and selling you those lattes for several $1,000s.
Didn't they do that? I literally thought that's what they
right. Look, I didn't really have to stretch too far in some of this, but so my primary space is that as an urban fantasy author in Chicago.
Okay.
The other thing that I do pretty significantly now is I'm a game writer for tabletop RPGs like Dungeons and Dragons, White Wolf, a few other game companies, and I just released this project called The Red Opera: Last Days of the Warlock, which is this massive undertaking where we worked with the Budapest Scoring Symphonic Orchestra, the Heavy Metal Hall of Fame, and this band Dia Morte, where we took their album and I composed a full 10-act playable campaign based off of that. And we just got done with our Kickstarter and absolutely crushed it out of the park. So it was.
Well, you're talking to somebody who used to color in the dice from the box set with crayons. If that's going to put an age on me, I can do that because Mark's in the same age group as me.
Yes. I've got my Crown Royal bag full of ancient.
Oh my
dice
God!
right here.
Yes.
So yes,
Crown Royal.
That is the sign of an old gamer, right there.
I remember the Crown Royal dice bags.
Yes.
But yeah, no.
But,
so
I helped kickstart Red Opera. I'm excited
sweet.
to see the project. So.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, it was.
And then the fanboying begins.
I'm keeping it. I'll keep it to a minimum.
Arms
crossed.
That project is so awesome. And since the Kickstarter ended in September, I have a bunch of stretch goals to write. So I just quickly got to the keyboard. I got to have a really fun thought exercise with this one stretch goal of like, what's the difference between a god and a patron? And like, how does that work? And but the writing for that and that project with the music and the heavy metal was such an interesting combination because it involved Apotheosis Studios and all their major art groups. Like writing a novel is one thing. You sit around, you write your novel, and you have a team of editors and copy editors and everybody else around you. But
that is really generous of you to say that. But
dude,
like the unicorn latte you just mentioned, everyone got one.
Yes.
Listen, copy editors are the freaking lifeblood, right? I can come up with some crazy plot ideas and things like that, but I will shit you not. The elements of style and the Chicago manual style might as well be arcane spellcasting, tomes.
Oh my God, yes.
And I just do not have the mental capacity to it's just not there. I just can't, I'm like, this is Greek to me, right? But having a full team of people to collaborate, from musicians to artists to layout designers, to like coordinating printing, the scope of an RPG project was mind blowing. And it was really awesome to be the lead designer when we went and I pitched it, and we'd already written everything before we went to the studio. And so like the project was done, we had already written all the text, and everybody saw it and it hit great. Now we're going to do like 6-7 more books. I have other books about teaching people how to become storytellers, and then I'm still going to be writing my novel series on the side. As we know, NaNoWriMo is coming up. And so
oh yeah. I'm getting lots of bottles of wine geared up for that because I'm required to do a sequel this year with my co-writer. So
I will be polishing off the rest of my sequel and cramming 50,000 words of book 3 in that space. But those are my two things. Obviously, I do a bunch of like blog writing and game reviews and things like that. I write for Geek and Sundry, Nerdist, I'll cover like various things in the geek space that are out there, like, here's all this crazy like lore about Final Fantasy, or I'm currently writing up articles on like, the history of Tevia in a new game called Genshin Impact, which I secretly got kind of addicted to. So I'll do that stuff in the sort of like blog, freelance writing, sort of,
I'm playing the
job
new
aspect.
Baldur's Gate. So I was super excited to see this because I really missed the Gauntlet series in Baldur's Gate, because I feel like a lot of Divinity was okay. Anyway. I thought Divinity was okay, but I'm playing the new Baldur's Gate. Love the bugs. Just loving them so much.
I haven't played Baldur's Gate 3 yet. It is on my list. I'm waiting. That is my end of November. I am done with NaNoWriMo.
Yes.
I want to die and ignore the world, curl up under a blanket burrito, and press the X button sideways on my couch. Because I played Baldur's Gate too.
Fun tip: do not let anyone kill your familiar.
Yeah. Well, that's a good rule anyway.
No, I know, but if you do in this game, every time you resummon them, they're in aggro.
Oh no.
Nice.
Fun bug. Maybe they'll fix it by the time you do it, but I just wouldn't chance it if I was you. Currently, I have a character that cannot summon their familiar because,
well, there'll be an attack familiar.
Yes. To you. By the way, it aggroes to you as well.
Yeah, it's pissed. Like, how could you let this happen to me?
Exactly. It's betrayed.
Okay, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, I run this my next project, right? And the next, like, one of the big things I'm working on is this book called The Storyteller's Forge, which teaches kids and other people how to be dungeon masters and storytellers by providing them with a story beat campaign. And I've been writing this in the background for 3 years now. And it started off as a store program with a local store in Downers Grove, where I had like six kids sitting down at a table playing. And it was because Adventurers League had failed us, and we sat down and I started running just for them. And now I have 200 kids signed up in this program, where I've hired other GMs to just start running other kids through this narrative adventure that I had written. One of the things that happened is that my current kids group, just today, actually, before I came onto this podcast, their familiar had indeed died, and they are that dedicated to their familiar that they decided to cast plane shift and descend into the bowels of hell itself to actually go retrieve the soul of their weasel that had gone down. And
I just want to point out that whatever the weasel had done was so bad that it's in a level of hell. Okay, so I just want to, it's not like it was just resting on a fucking cloud or something like that.
No.
Heaven, it is in one of the 9 levels of hell, sitting next to Tiamat going, what's up?
Yeah, this weevil is an embodiment of pandemonium and chaos, because that weasel, every time I have boss fights, either critically hits or critically botches, and there is no in between on this weasel. But this program, like, when the kids get done with it after they play for like 2 years, they've built their own campaign world, and then they go off and start running and being their own storytellers. And
so you are basically effectively legally cloning. That's what you're telling me.
Yes, I'm trying to make other storytellers to bring. I'm cloning DMs because there's not enough of us.
I agree, and a lot of the DMs that do exist are kind of like the ones in Robert Bevan's Critical Failures. Have you read that?
Yes. It was partly an inspiration for this panel that I do called "How to Not Suck at Storytelling" at cons, where I invite storytellers to come on and tell about their worst fuck ups that they've ever actually made. And then we moderate through it of like, what did we learn from this? And this is why you don't do that, guys.
So what was yours?
Mine, okay, I'll give you the one that I close out the panel with.
You can do that, and I'm going to make Mark tell his, and I'll tell mine. That's what we're doing.
Sounds good.
The oh god, there's an adult one and there's the kid ones, but the kid one is one I close out the panel with, so I know that's the better one. So this program, I've been running this store program for about a year. I have 200 kids in this program, and throughout the story, the characters find this brass dragon, Boltius, who's like a bard. He's their mentor. They build their village. They go around. They recruit cooks and chefs. They build their own city and their campaign, and the kids got invested in it. It's a multi-store program, so you have 200 kids signing up every week running through the sessions, and I'm curating this content, and all of it is dedicated to every act is secretly telling the kids, here's how you become a storyteller, here's how you prep an encounter, but through play. Well, at the end of it, the arch rival is this dragon named Gorsnouch, and he shows up to the kids' town, and he starts casting meteor swarms, and he's like destroying their hard-earned work, and he's got his like minions and generals, and he walks up to this brass dragon Boltius, and they start fighting. And the kids are like trying to fight and kill his minions and stuff like that, while the dragons are battling in the middle of town. And at some point in the battle, the Boltius gets his head ripped off, and I'm like in the middle of the store, and I describe like Gorsnouch just like ripping the head off this dragon, casting Boltius down to the side, the steamy blood on the ground. The store gets quiet. Every kid in the store stops like chit-chatting. Nobody's on their phone anymore. One kid named Charlie decides to put down his phone, and he starts playing like Undertale's like Megalovania. Everybody in the store is focused. They are going to kill this goddamn blue dragon. Right? They are ready to decimate this arch villain. That was like the pivotal moment to get them immersed. The kids had their battle. They were, ultimately successful. And, they saved the village. Now they are in charge of the village. They are the village leaders. The campaign comes to an end, and everybody goes home. All the kids are really excited. They're talking about their great deeds. And about 4 hours later, I hear a strange noise coming from a bedroom. And it's my kid crying in the bedroom. And I'm like, oh no, what happened? Like, did something go wrong? And I go and I talk to my son, and I'm like, Trent, is everything okay? And he's just sobbing. He's just really, really sad, and he won't tell me why. And he's like, I won't tell you. I don't want to talk about it. It'll make you mad, which instantly, as a parent, sets off like alarm bells that I have done something wrong. Yep. And he said he will only text it to me. And so I gave him some space, and like I went back outside the room and I waited, and he texted me one name, Boltius. He was sad that Boltius had died, and those emotions had caught up to him 8 hours or like 6 hours later over the things. And I had to like show him that like the epilogue session, which was next week, showed that like they had a scroll to resurrection. The next campaign would be them going out into the world and getting a chance to do some stuff like that. But like I really had to like talk him down. I get phone calls from the store the next day where it turns out about 80 kids had like broken down in tears after the store event and the conclusion.
You are literally the worst.
And I was like, what the fuck? I'm happy that I've got the kids that immersed and that they loved the character that much. And if anything, it taught them betterment of like, this is a real thing. But my mistake there was I should have ended the session with them finding a dragon egg or a personal like them going to Boltius's house and finding like mementos that Boltius had of the characters. So the next time I tried that, and it turns out that the other half of kids found that even more sad. And I was like, all right, I can't win. You're going to have to cry. But the lesson there was basically make sure you have a bleed session, a come down. If you run a high intense session, especially with kids who have a lot of emotions bottled up, you need to basically talk about the resolution and some of the powerful moments and have a come out session. And so that was my biggest, that's how I leave the panel about talking about like player aftercare. I have another one where I was almost lynched by about 600 LARPers in a vampire game because I did a dream sequence, and I'll never run dream sequences again, but that's a whole different story.
I have a horrible LARPer vampire story that involves us being removed from a hotel forever.
Nice.
From ever being back in that hotel. But that's not even my worst story. Mark, what is besides Rick apparently being literally the worst, what is your story, Mark?
Mine is another role-playing incident, and it goes way back to an early Gen Con. And we were with the late, great Richard Tucholka, who had created the Bureau 13 role-playing game. And I was working with him on it, and we were working on some future modules. And we'd come up with this idea. It was at the time where I think Disney had just announced its cruise line. And Universal announced they were building the Universal Orlando, so that'll put the time frame in.
Okay, well, way to date all of us there, Mark. Thank you.
Well, yeah. So Universal was not always here. Harry Potter was not always in Orlando.
The story transpires. Go ahead.
Yeah, for those of us who can remember that time. We came up with this idea that Disney was going to these islands with their cruise, and we figured Universal had hired, cause in the Bureau 13 world, it's very much similar to your books, Rick, where it's a world where magic and everything exists. Bureau 13 is basically X-Files with heavy artillery to keep the things in check.
Very Delta Greenish.
Yeah, exactly. And so they were. This was a team was sent because the cruise, the test cruise had disappeared, and the whole plot was that Universal had hired mages to turn one of the islands into a real Jurassic Park and summon Jurassic time, altered time, so the island was really dinosaurs and all this stuff. And so the team gets on the island and all this weird stuff's going down. And as I'm telling the story, I see this crowd just starts gathering around it as we're doing the module. And we were like, man, we were only supposed to have 10 people at this event. Why are all these people here suddenly? And Rich is just loving it because he's writing down notes because he's wanting to make this into an actual module for the game. And we were just play testing it. And I start going off script because some of the weird things were going on. And of course, as you do, players being players, they came up with some really amazing options. So the big thing is they get to the castle at the end. It's supposed to be the Disney castle, and it's this big now demonic fortress. And they get to the moat, and the plesiosaur comes up, and it's a giant plesiosaur. And they don't know how to kill it. They're trying to figure out how to kill this thing. And they they don't have anything that big with their heavy artillery at this point. They finally, what happens is one of the players was vampiric, and he came up with a brilliant solution. He sees that giant neck of a plesiosaur and decides to attack the plesiosaur with vampirism and try to bite it. And then so we made it. I was like, all right, we'll give him that. That was a crazy solution, and he rolled really well, so of course we did it. And then he gets the brilliant idea of turning it into a vampire. And so now I'm like trying to figure out, okay, can a vampire plesiosaur exist? And suddenly in my head, I get this brilliant idea that yes, there is a vampire plesiosaur, because there's a plesiosaur in our world that has never died, and people see it all the time. What if it's a vampire? And I'm like,
are we talking about Loch Ness? I swear to God.
I decided that when at the end of the mission, when they won and all the timeline got restored, that dinosaur went back in time and is now Nessie. And it was this brilliant thing, and it was funny, and the crowd loved it. It was roaring by the end of the story. And Rich looks over at me and goes, "Oh my gosh, that was incredible!" And he's like, great on the fly. We're putting that in the module. We're doing all this, and I'm changing the whole timeline when we re-release the D20 of Bureau 13, and I'm making it so that the reason the dinosaurs went extinct is they all got turned by Nessie, and that's why they all dissolved and became bones and dust. And I'm like, oh, well, the asteroid probably helped too, but they weren't smart enough to get out of the sun. But because he's a first generation, he was smart enough to get out of the sun. So all this crazy literature goes into this, and we start working on it, and I'm still trying to figure out, why was this crowd here? And what happened was, apparently we were booked in the room that Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson were supposed to have their last game together, and somehow they thought I was Gary Gygax and Rich was Dave Arneson, and we were playing this weird science fantasy game. And it was
to not having social media and knowing what people look like.
So your lesson that you walked away from was make sure that your table knows who you are.
Exactly. Because what happened is that next day, articles are coming out about Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson writing some science fiction fantasy role-playing game. And then I'm getting all these emails. Do you know anything about this? And I'm like, yeah, that might have been a mistake. And that's just, this is why cons work a lot better now that we have social media and internet and apps. But that's my message is, when you're telling a great story and you're getting into it and the crowd's loving it, make sure the crowd knows who the heck you are, because I got no credit for that.
Wow. Mine is not nearly as spectacular as your guys's. I mean, we did get kicked out of a hotel in the Tampa Bay area because we were doing a live LARP for everybody out there that has no fucking clue what we're talking about, is live action role playing. So you actually play this character for realsies. And so some people, for Necronomicon, which they didn't have this year. Is Necronomicon still a thing here in Tampa?
They did it virtual this year.
Okay, lame. So Necronomicon had a con and we played Vampire the Masquerade, which is a role-playing game, right? So some of us were vampires. Anyway, I'm not going to even get into the long description because everybody on this podcast is like, what the fuck are they talking about?
Listen, we're a bunch of nerds who, when we were younger, decided to hang out by riverwalks in trench coats and play rock, paper, scissors with each other to try to play a game of Byzantine politics and self-importantize ourselves, around the idea that we were these immortal clan of vampires. And really what it came down to was the people that brought their most friends to the LARP had the most power, surprisingly.
Well, and it's funny. So we went to do this live action role playing game, which I was a part of, and I was a vampire. But there was a girl, and she had a quarterstaff. Mark, I'm surprised if you haven't heard this story.
I think I have.
We're in the fucking lobby, and she comes screaming through the lobby with this quarterstaff spinning above her head. And all of us who were trying to play our characters, we're brooding vampires, like, don't look at us, right? Are like, what the fuck just happened? Because she's screaming, running with the quarterstaff. Guests are like diving down. She is so into this character. And the hotel concierge walks up and is like, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Now, the funny part of this story, really, the main funny part was, when you're trying to go up to people who are live action role playing, you go, we have to leave? Like the hotel?
They think that you're trying to kill them. They think you're trying to kill their character.
Exactly.
You're taking them out to Death Alley to shank and diabolize them for that sweet 2 experience.
Exactly. So we're like sitting there going, how the fuck do we do this? Like, how do we get... Maybe if we just don't show up where we're supposed to be, people will be like, where did everybody go? Like, we had to come up with all these really clever ways to not have this continue because the hotel was so fucking pissed off at us for what this person did. She was amazing, by the way. That it was like, little story. But it's funny, a bunch of gamers sitting around going, how do we convince a bunch of gamers that we're not in the game anymore, that we're live action role playing?
So
if only we knew AOC back then.
So what was really funny is I played off that when I was a storyteller up here in Chicago. I had about 300 players in a LARP that I was running for, Vampire the Masquerade, same thing. We're all out there being a bunch of nerds in our 20s, around this open area Riverwalk type area. There's a nice river, there's a bunch of different businesses. Primogen would have their meetings in steakhouses over glasses of wine, and the Prince had the upper floor of this bookstore. We coordinated with all the local businesses and police, and so we had this big little sprawl. And my players had started getting more and more elaborate with their costumes and their dress and things like this. And you're supposed to, in this game, blend into mortal society, right? You're not supposed to let people know, but it basically turned into What We Do in the Shadows, where they're walking around like, they are like these completely archaic vampire elders and whatnot. And so my mom really wanted to play, and I was like, all right, Mom, you can come play. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to show up, and you and all your friends are going to give these little gift boxes that I made to anybody who you think is a vampire player in this game. And you open up the gift box. There was 3 chocolates in there and a signed storyteller index card that says, boom, take 8 ag. Your character is dead. You've been killed by hunters. And so my mom and her girlfriends walked around drunk off wine and basically found anybody on the Riverwalk that they thought was a vampire player, and they killed them. I lost half my player base that night for them not keeping the masquerade. My mom had no idea who any of the people were. She just went around and found anybody who stood out. Like a bunch of suburban moms just went around and did this. But what was really funny is that there was a hangout where a bunch of goth kids that weren't playing the game just kind of like listened to music and did some stuff. We were walking by at the end of the game and I saw that they had like 60 packages. And they didn't know anything about it, or they didn't know why, but my mom and her friends all thought that that entire goth kids were all playing. I'm like, well, the news report in the game the next day was local hunter militia not only murders 80 people but wreaks havoc in this area. You can play. I love, as a storyteller, playing with out of game in-game immersion. I run a lot of Dread, which is like the Jenga tower system for horror immersion at the tables. I like experimental GMing, where I'll have like the pizza delivery guy show up in the middle of a D&D session and offer a quest to whoever answers the door. I will actually arrange these things. I think that they add an element of fun and memorability, especially to one-shot or special game sessions. So that kind of stuff is always, if you're sitting at my table, that's always a possibility.
Oh my God. Okay. So we have to take a quick break, but I'm going to game with you at some point, and so's Mark, because we have no choice at this moment. So we will be right back with Drinking with Authors.
This is the voice of Drinking with Authors. You are at our commercial break, and our commercial is, hey, do you want to be a guest on our show? Or do you have a question for one of the guests on our show? Or do you have a brilliant drink recipe that we've never heard of? That would have to stump us. But you could reach us at drinkingwithauthors@gmail.com or on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. You can direct message or even just leave a comment on one of our posts. We would absolutely love to hear from you.
I hit the button. Okay, we're back. Okay, so Rick, I feel like we should be best friends and we should nerd out forever, but let's talk a little bit about, literally, I want to game with you right now. I did get my Critical Failures dice box set along with my bags and bags of dice.
Oh, you do dice shaming as well? When one of my dice messes up, they go into dice jail.
Yep.
I have a special box for all my dice that have committed critical sins against me.
Was that Knights of the Dinner Table? I think started that way back in the 80s. The great Jolly Blackburn came up with that for his old Knights of the Dinner Table script, and now everybody does it. So.
I'm just gonna say that one of the really fun things about dice shaming, I have a friend, his name is Carlos, so I'm gonna mention him. So we were playing Wheel of Time, and then we're actually gonna talk about writing. And he had a heron blade. And if you know Wheel of Time, this is an unbreakable sword. He critical failured rolled a 1 3 times in a row. The DM kept having him roll because they're like, well, you can't break this sword. But he rolled a 1 3 times in a row, and he broke the unbreakable heron blade.
So that is a tragedy, especially considering that I am one of the biggest. I'm actually rereading The Wheel of Time right now.
Awesome.
The Wheel of Time actually scarred me for life, because here I am, a young teenager in my room listening to metal albums and just immersing myself in the world, even if I'm laughing at how much Nynaeve like tugs at her freaking braid every chapter that she's in. But when Matt Cawthon, oh crap. All right, you know what? I don't care. If you're listening to this, spoilers.
20-year-old spoiler, it's allowed.
20-year-old spoilers, it's allowed, right? We're past that threshold. There's a book 9. He dies in quotation marks, and you don't know what happens to him. He's a character blessed with luck, and I'm like, no, he's my favorite character. He can't die. And then no more books come out. And it was because Robert Jordan passed, and like there was like another book that had come out like after. There's just a big long delay, and that fandom that I had made it so that I swore I will not read book series unless they are finished, which is a problem I found out if you ever become a late author later in life and you have a 2 or 3 year delay between your novels coming out. Because I have times I'm like, shit, I got to get my next book out because I wouldn't read my own book series because it's not done yet. like I got to finish, right? I have to finish. It is a critical thing because like this is such a good. The reason I refuse to read Game of Thrones to this day is because it is a non-finished book series.
Well, how about this? I realized that, and who knows when he's going to finish, but I found out something about George R. R. Martin on the podcast with Linda Snodgrass that fucking blew my mind. He is a pantser.
Yep.
100% a pantser.
Yep.
Like, doesn't write anything down, and if you read those books, what the fuck? Like, seriously, how could he be I'm a pantser. I can't plot. No matter what I try, even, like if I brought my little pad in here, I have a pad that has very sketchy notes in it, but in no sequential order and no, like, this is what we're following. I am a pantser to the core because I just start writing and I'm like, fuck this, and I'm going to move on.
I
have so many intricate ties to this, to that, to this relationship, to this family. I literally thought he had a fucking post-it board in the background.
I thought he had the gamer conspiracy board.
Yeah, exactly, with the little strings.
Yeah.
No, he has nothing. He's just like, oh, this is what I feel like today.
Yep.
Mind blown. Anyway. So let's talk a little bit about your series. So you won't read a series that's not finished. So let me ask you this question. How many books do you intend on putting in your series?
I originally intended 5. It might be 4. And that's because I realized, like, looking at it, one of my characters, and since you guys are other writers, you can relate to this moment of insanity. I'm in the middle of writing my sequel, and one of my characters in the middle of a writing session one night, I'm in the zone. I'm having this really freaking awesome scene, and one of my characters decides to kill himself. And I was like, you motherfucker, you can't do that. I'm God, I'm the writer. You can't just go kill yourself. And my character, like, in my own brain, looked at me and goes, no, fuck you, man. I'm dying here. And I was like pissed because that did revise some of my outlines, but it did make sense, right? And it was awesome that it happened. But so I'm intending to do at least 3, most 5. I already know where the book series ends. I already know the final scene of the entire book series. And I have like 1 or 2 like standalone book ideas that I really want to like actually write because they just sound fun. Because I think when I wrote my sequel, which is about, it's like, it's today, except the apocalypse has kind of happened. Civil order is gone. Governments are trying to fight, and corporations are kind of like, rising up in super economic power. It's kind of going almost Shadowrun, but more magic.
I was gonna say that it sounds like Shadowrun, but I didn't want to say that.
Yeah, no, it does have that comparison in that it's more Shadowrun, more magic instead of hypertech, and it's about the profitization and the mining of the magical commodities, and then they're ignoring regulations. That's the way that people can survive when the sun is black. The world has changed. Magic is returning. What happens in today's society of power, even politically, was to dynamically shift to everybody in the world, right? When the military is basically ineffective against a sorcerer who can now summon massive hurricanes and, wipe out an entire battalion. So things have the landscape of the world has changed, and I fell in love with that setting so much. I actually want to go back to that one time period in the book, because each book takes place in a different city, and there's a bit of a time gap between each one, because I wanted to show how multiple cities and different characters all react to different events of the same cataclysm. And
okay, so I have a question, though. This is
Yes.
a question that plagues, I think, authors in general. Is this. So if you, in your mind as an author, you go, I'm going to make this a 3-book, 4-book, 5-book, whatever. I have a fucking end. They're going to get there and the world's going to explode or whatever. And we're going to get there and that's the end. And then your fans go, hey, Rick, so fun story. We want more.
RPG World.
But what about your reader fans? Because RPG, absolutely, for us nerds, we are going to play a game together at some point after COVID's over. But when you have the fans that are like, hey, I want more, because I've talked to some authors that have this problem where they, in their mind, they go, this is a 3-book series or this is a 4-book series. And then all of a sudden the fans are like, hey, we want more. we want more. Do you think you can hold your own integrity to go, no? Or are you going to go, okay, cool, fine, I will write about this more?
Oh, I would not even, it wouldn't even be a, oh, okay, cool, fine, I'll write about this before. It'd be like, fuck yes, I have like 30 more plot lines that I could in theory write after the end, because I grew up reading a lot of science fiction, 70s classic sci-fi and things like that. And I loved those endings that opened up the world after a series of events had happened. And then I have so many extra plot threads, and it's in part because I kind of cheated as a writer in that I have secretly been running a tabletop game set 250 years after my novel series is done. Since I already have my outline all written and done, I have been running various tabletop groups through what would you do in this world setting? Here is this area. What would you do? And my tabletop group are filled with amazing creative people. They're all other writers. They all will take like these crazy ideas and these plot threads and like run with them and whatnot. But there's one story I really want to tell, which is about a young girl working for a Walmart-esque corporation whose job it is to summon, demons up from, from hell and purgatory, and then she ships them off to a mining, and she summons up like one demon who like is actually self-aware and isn't just like an imp, and he's like smoking a cigarette. He's like, what the fuck did I do to get here? Oh shit, they're gonna mine me. And like the two of them like run away, and they spend their time like chased from this corporation. But I mean, I have a lot of fun in the setting. I could probably write in this sandbox until I'm dead. It is so there's so much conspiracy in the books. It's a political heavy. It's urban fantasy without romance. I will say that. The way I looked at it was it's the end of the fucking world. Nobody's got time for that shit. And so, so like shit's getting real. Like demons are crawling out of shadows. Somebody stole your fucking taco. Like a little imp actually like ran off and with your stuff. But shit's going down. And so these events are happening, and I have like plot lines about like what's happening in like the president's office, what's happening to other countries, and I have all of these different plot threads that I could grab, which aren't the focus of my novel, because I have an expanded world already built, and that is only because my ass has been cursed to be the storyteller for 20 years. Right. I am the proverbial dungeon master of my friends groups. So I naturally have these worlds that I've built. And for the novels, I was like, I'm going to do this one thing here.
So I have a question. It's interesting because I talked to, and I didn't know this, and I'm going back to this only because Melinda Snodgrass and George R. R. Martin have written the Ring something series, and I've had way too much wine to actually remember the name of it right now, but it's not a reflection on you guys. I'm just drunk. But do you feel like you would let anybody else into your world to write about your world?
Yes. If somebody, okay, so this happened to me.
Take note, Mark.
This happened to me. I had run. So my book series is called the Seventh Age series, right? And I had been running a LARP, a homebrew custom live action LARP called the Seventh Age. And it was actually set in there where we had a bunch of people. There were years, hundreds and hundreds of years later after Magic had come back. And it was like a completely different homebrew setting. But we would run them for 10 weeks, full immersion in a place that we'd rent out in like the middle of nowhere, Indiana, where we could rent out a mansion for like nothing. And we would run this game there once a year. And we had like VR setups, we had music, we had bands, we had meads. We went full out with immersion in this game, this LARP. And my book series comes out, right? My first book gets out, and I go to Midwinter Gaming Con, and I launch my book, and I'm like, I'm going to go to my con, I'm going to go to my peoples, I'm going to go to the nerds, right? And I'm going to do my book launch there. And I start selling my novel. I won the contest. I think things are on the up and up for me, even though like I had some some publisher drama and behind the scenes. I was still really excited just to write and bring the book out.
Yeah.
So I go to Emerald City Comic Con a year later, and I'm at Emerald City Comic Con, and somebody walks up to my booth and says, "Oh, I didn't know that somebody had written a novel about the RPG game, and we're in Seattle." And I'm like, hmm? Eyebrow raise. What is this? And they're like, "Oh yeah, the LARP is running tonight. Why don't you come, to this LARP?" And I'm like, "Okay, wait a minute, hold on. You're telling me that there is a seventh age LARP that is here in Seattle at Emerald City Comic Con?" And they're like, yeah, the guy's been running it for like, the past 8 months, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, okay. And I was like, well, I'm like, tell me about this LARP, right? And he describes my world back to me. A little bit off, right? But he describes my world back to me, and I'm like, right. Well, I have can you bring your storyteller by later on? And later on, eventually, he comes by at the con with that storyteller, and the storyteller sees me, and there's a look of like terror in his eyes, and at the same time, he's also like, "Dude, I played in that LARP that you ran out in Indiana. Jason Piercy invited me," and I was like, I'm like, "Can I play my?" He's like, "Do you want to play your villain in your book? We would love to have you play this character that you."
We would love to have you play the villain from your book in your series, your own LARP.
In a LARP, and I was like, "No, dude. If I'm gonna go to a LARP, I want to show up as like a scrub on the street. Like I just want to go see this." And they had taken my world and they'd gone in a different direction with it. They had put their own storyteller spin on it. But I thought it was fun. It was super flattering. I fucking loved all of it. I thought it was wicked cool.
So how many people recognize you though?
None, because it was like he had come out to Indiana and Chicagoland area and played in that game, and then came back to Seattle, and where they were bored of the basic vampire games and had taken this like post-apocalyptic Gehenna spin.
This is like a level of ultimate fandom that's fucking amazing.
That's
like
I have no problems if somebody else. I mean, just like I have brand control and I have the ability to look at somebody's work and edit with them and work with them. And really like writing books like the Red Opera or working in collaboration with other writers on joint projects, you kind of like get rid of that ego, I suppose, and that like ability to.
Mark, you can write a book with him. I hope you're taking notes on this.
I already did. I've already sent the email. I got the pitch.
You can collaborate with people that you get along with. Like I mean, obviously Patrick Edwards, who helped with the Red Opera, him and I just, in the same sandbox encounters, we click, right? So as long as I click with somebody, and they want to tell a thing, have at it. Now, would I let somebody go write my third book? Hell no. I will let somebody write a book.
I'm just wondering because, as a writer, you create this world, depending on what kind of writer you are. I kill everybody, so nobody fucking survives in my world. But you create this world, you create this thing, and having and letting people into this world, I think is a really good commentary because, there are worlds where people have let other authors in to expand their world. I mean, a lot of times it's referred to as canon, but they can expand it. I think it's fantastic when you're able to do that because as a writer, sometimes it's hard to let your precious, go and let other people actually touch it and play with it and expand upon it. I think it takes a really strong person, as I drink a lot of wine, comfortable with themselves to allow that. I love you, Mark, for laughing at me during that.
It was a snort. It wasn't a laugh.
Okay, is to let somebody into your world to do that. And I think it takes somebody who's played in role-playing games and has had that collaborative effort to go, it's okay. This is my universe. I am going to watch that you don't break something in my universe that, but I'm going to let you play in my universe.
Yeah, I 100% would do that, and I think that there's a lot of merit for that, especially if you're like I make no bones about it. I'm a new author, right? Like I have you know I have written I say I'm a new author, and it's like last year I published like 250,000 words of content, and I know
Okay,
that, but that's
so
like one
that's
year.
not a new author.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like it, right? I don't feel like somebody who has been doing this forever, right? I know I've been writing for 5 years, right? I know that I have been a published author for that amount of time. I've been working and published. I get paid for my writing. I'm out there. I'm at cons. I'm doing things. I'm constantly trying to like better my craft. But I still honestly feel, and I think a lot of writers, every writer I talk to sometimes still feels like that. They're like, dude, I'm just a dirt. I'm just a nerd at home behind my keyboard, like, typing away and like,
Imposter syndrome, baby.
right. It's a thing.
Imposter syndrome.
And, but I think that that kind of thing could be a lot of fun to do with people because you get to then rising tides raise all ships, right? Find your author groups, find your friends, like work together, like we're all in the same space that we love getting lost in our brains and just freaking have fun with that. Like that's okay.
Look at you giving sagely advice in that little wisp of time. Mark, I haven't allowed you to ask a question. Do you
I've
want to
been trying.
you want
So Rick, I guess Chicago was home for you.
Yes.
Is that
Okay,
so?
stop
That okay?
trying to send stalkers to his house.
No, I was just gonna say because I just find it so funny because so many urban fantasies have been set there recently. I mean, so many series are set there. I mean, of course, Dresden Files leaps to mind, even though Jim's never
I
actually
know.
visited Chicago.
Trust me, I get this a lot at cons. People will
Yeah.
walk up to me and they'll be like, "Oh, your urban fantasy set in Chicago," and they'll like read. They'll like leave. They'll leave and they'll come back and they'll be like, "Oh, you actually live in Chicago." And like it was because I actually have like the street names and the places there. Actually, the reason I started writing uh, entirely is by day I'm an electrician. Right, I'm an electrician here in Chicago. I'm a union electrician 134, and I was demolishing the Chicago Board of Trade. And in the process of doing this, I found a symbol that I actually have tattooed right here on my chest. And we were demolishing this Board of Trade. Now it was in the vice president's office, and I backed off of this painting, and there was this weird arcane symbol baked into the concrete with a golden plaque underneath it the vice president had put there. And it said, "A man's only worth is how much wealth he can generate." And that was a creepy statement.
Yeah.
And especially considering where it was. And we were finding all of these like hermetic symbols and weird things baked into the concrete and around.
Did you
behind a
summon
bunch
a demon during this process?
I did not. My hippie foreman was like freaked the fuck out though. And he was like, "This is like a weird cathedral of money." He was like nervous because he was like, he's a total 1960s hippie, man. This was like everything he stood for and protested against. He was like, "Oh my God, we're in the devil's lair." And I took a snapshot of the symbol, and I found out that it was the official Alchemy Guild symbol from 1863. And the actual slogan that it said in Latin on it basically represented finding gold in the center of your soul. And that kind of stuck with me for a while. And I had a lot of horrifying encounters. I've opened up doors underneath Englewood in Chicago and had a swarm of cockroaches wash over my legs. There's a plague demon in my first book, and a sewer encounter that seems very familiar to that story. And that's like, well, because I like had something similar happen to me, and I was like, okay, this is what I felt like. And I have an overactive imagination, so when I'm walking through the bowels of O'Hare Airport underground in these crazy mile-long tunnels with the dripping sounds of like acid leaking from a pipe, and like the lights are flickering, and it's just the settings and the scenes that you can see when you are a tradesman watching the back of house world of what makes infrastructure work, to put a shadowy spin on it really gave me a lot of enjoyment in my work, because then I was going to work doing my job, but like I was quiet, I was listening to my music, just bending pipe, doing my thing, but like I'm actually sitting there like envisioning entire, scenarios and scenes happening about the city and the politics, the aldermen, the different people there. And I made a rule to myself as a writer. I would never write in a city that I would have never walked around at 3 o'clock in the morning alone, just to see what it's like when in downtown Chicago you could stand at 3 a.m. right in the heart of it and there's nobody fucking around, and it is quiet and it is creepy and it is a ghost town. And that feeling where you are basically the god of that world in that one particular moment, like there are, obviously other service people, there are people that are around, people that also have late night jobs working in places like that, but nobody ever notices them. Everybody forgets who those people like are, unless you are those people or directly know them. And the stories that people have are fucking awesome. So being in Chicago, it's like, oh, Rick, would you ever give up your job as an electrician? And I'm like, fuck no. Like, first off, that allows me to pay the bills, so I could actually do the writing thing for like, you know, enjoyment. And then also be the amount of stuff that I see. I mean, I got like tattoos of like Tesla coils and weird arcane symbols all over me now and stuff like that, because as I find
Are
stuff,
you not going to show us the tattoo of the weird fucking
Oh.
arcade symbol?
that's this one right
There
here.
it is.
There we go. Because guess what? Watch our YouTube channel to see that. I'm like, he's like weird arcade channel, and the whole time I'm like, how do I say, show me the fucking weird arcade?
Yep. Right here. When I signed my books, actually, I have a stamp that I took, and I made a stamp of that thing.
Awesome.
You sign your books with a stamp?
I actually, I usually write something like, enjoy the end of the world, bring tacos, and then I like stamp it and like sign it.
That's
But I have a stamp with this symbol that I custom made on
Okay.
it, because
I got a question.
Yep.
I need because you're a gamer. Having been a female gamer since before, like I try to tell this, like my daughter is all my kids are nerds. I have a boy and a girl, but trying to tell modern day nerds what it was like to be a female gamer nerd. Like that wasn't a thing. Like we were an elusive, thought about, dreamy kind of
Unicorn.
situation. What?
Unicorns, like we talked about earlier.
Yes, exactly. So, when you have your fan experiences, what is the weirdest fan experience you've ever had? Because you're a gamer. So, besides people showing up going, hey, do you want to play in the world we created based on your world? What is your weirdest fucking gamer experience?
my weirdest.
Weirdest author experience.
Weirdest
I'm
author
drunk. I'm
experience
fine.
was when some people thought that by playing in my game, no matter what tabletop game I was running for them, meant that their characters were then going to be taken and put into a novel series. And they got really mad at me for this thought. And I was like, that's not how it works at all. But also I guess another one would be at a con. It was at Con Alt Delete in Chicago at the end of the year. It's around December. And there was this. All right, full disclosure, I am a union electrician. If that doesn't say a lot.
You mentioned your union in the time you said your union. You're
right,
good.
Right. Yeah, like if that doesn't say where I'm at in things, that's that's pretty clear. But this guy had shown up at my booth with a live stream like cam, and he was like, oh, he heard me talking about the Illuminati and the Masons and conspiracies, and he starts getting into this like, do you know that like the porn companies control and are like thought like deep thinking the government state and things like that? And he's actually trying to get me and on a live stream to go to like, what do you think about the idea of the women being allowed to play games? And he goes into this crazy tirade of like, how modern day feminism and all of these things are like toxic cancers. And like, I know he's fucking trolling me, but he thinks I'm an ally of the cause because I'm freaking like there, like talking about the Illuminati, like with my book. And I'm like, do you not see the do you not see the giant fuck Nazis patch on my coat? Like, look, if my coat is not like a giant billboard of where I stand on things, what the fuck, dude? And that
Wow.
was, I had never run into a live stream encounter where I know he's holding the camera up on like a freaking selfie stick, and he's like, you know, he's like talking to me and whatnot. And I ended up finding out that video channel later. I went and I was like, all right, what the hell? And I'm reading the comments, and I was like, they had plenty of colorful language for me in their comment section. And I was like, I don't even know what half these terms are. I'm gonna have to go fucking check this shit out. But I was like, fuck it, yes. Because some of the other authors, there's this author collaborative called Words After Dark. And they were a table or two down from me, and Mouse, they are an amazing group of Mouse is one of them, but they're awesome at what they create and their products. They came over and were like, we're going to help rescue Rick from this scenario, because they saw this going down. And this guy would never go over to their table, with all of the flags and things like that. He would never walk over to them. And they came over and were like, we're gonna offer you sanctuary over here. That was the most unprepared con moment I think I had ever run into.
Wow.
I mean, obviously, I think every writer gets the, somebody wants to come and they walk up to you and say, hey, I want to be a writer too. And I'm like, awesome, cool, start writing. Right, that's these, and they'll talk about the book, or they want you to like beta read it, or they'll want you to do stuff for that. And I've gotten good about putting up those boundaries of saying, when you finish and you've got a dev editor and you've already reached this point, sure, gladly I'll beta read it, I'll do a blurb, no problem, have at it. But
I just want to say, Rick, you just literally said on our podcast that if you get to a certain point, you'll beta read. I just want to put a disclaimer for people listening that
fair
fucking breaks. That is not necessarily the case.
Yes.
But apparently Rick would like to debate feminism with you at his booth at any particular comic.
Oh, ouch. All right, I'm gonna need another of this.
And the pros and cons of unions. So it'll be great. He'll be glad to talk to you about that.
Oh God, what was it? One of my friends read my book and came to me and said, Rick, are you secretly trying to indoctrinate us into union principles? And I'm like, I didn't think it was secret at all.
Oh my God, that's fucking amazing. I think it's interesting because when you reach a certain level of it, so Mark, I don't know how much you know about Mark, but Mark writes, I'm drunk, Mark, so please.
It's all good.
As I say this, is Mark writes about real life. Like, he takes a legend that occurred and writes about what it really meant, by the way, which is scarier than anything either of us will ever fucking write on the planet.
Oh yeah, that stuff is fucking nuts. I love that stuff.
Yep. Some of that is just terrifying.
You're on your third book right now, right? You're about to do your fourth.
Fourth's on the way, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Finally out of Florida. We're doing Erie, Appalachia next.
Yeah, so it's interesting because talking to Mark, because I'm a horror writer and I write erotica, but I write horror. And so I write some scary ass fucking shit because none of my stories have a happy ending. But then I listen to Mark and I'm like, nothing I say is even remotely terrifying in comparison to your stuff. But when you're talking about dealing with fans and stuff, I think it's interesting when you get put as an author in these situations, because I think that people build up an image of what they think of you in their mind, what they think you are, what part of you they think they can have. And then you go, this is fucking creepy as fuck when this is happening.
Yeah.
Right. Weird.
I'm big with the tinfoil hat crowd. So, I do a lot of the paranormal cons and stuff like that, as well as the comic cons and stuff. We stand out at the comic cons because, we're not just like the 100 other comic guys and and
No,
fantasy writers
that's actually
suddenly
that's why I go to Comic Cons and
Yeah.
anime cons, because it turns out a lot of anime fans really enjoy things about the end of the world and magic.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I say. Your book fits perfect, like stands out enough where it's not just, oh my gosh, this is the same thing that, these 100 booths with,
Sparkly vampires. Continue on.
yeah, exactly.
Oh,
but
I have an editor story about sparkly vampires.
Oh, nice. No, we had, but anyway, yeah, with these cons, we'll get these. I'll get the fans who come up and go, oh, okay, so the secret, the reptilians and this and then all that, and then and the government conspiracies and all that, and I'm like, okay, all right, this is not what I normally write about, but I'm willing to listen to your story because that's what I love, hearing these stories and figuring out where these things are, and then you get the ones that just have to tell you this is so important that you need to know this, and that you have to share the word because no one listens to them, and then you're sitting there going, oh God, what have I unleashed upon myself? And 9 times out of 10 it's it's harmless and it's kind of cool, but then there's the ones that just will stay right there all day and chase away all your other potential.
Oh my God, yes, that
customers.
is a thing where somebody, like, I have had that where somebody's like, okay, I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna talk to you about this thing for and that's like, because you had asked this question about starting off as being a female gamer and a female in this space. The thing that I don't have, you have probably a litany of different experiences that I will ever have, I think, but Mark and I, we both have one similar experience that we will get because we are generally seen as approachable and talkable. We will get somebody that will come and just unleash their uh, inner mind monologue upon us for hours upon end. And it's like, you are trying to be polite, you're trying to be nice, and it's like, listen, I am working.
Yeah.
I am here behind the table. I am working. You haven't actually even bought my book yet.
Yes, that's the worst part.
Like, come on, man. You don't even actually know what I write about yet.
Yep.
You haven't even read it. Because I mean, like, yeah, I have fans and I have friends that will come by my table and they'll be like, hey, Rick, you got book 2 out now? Yeah. And I'm like, no. And they'll be like, fuck you. And they'll like walk like down, and they're joking with me, right? But it's legit. It's fun.
Yep.
Like it's have at it. But that's one thing that I know, and I've talked to other writers, and I've talked to other artists even, and that is one thing I know that we get is the, oh, you're somebody like me, so we can have this conversation, and they just go without really understanding that we're doing a whole different thing, and you don't even know what we do. You haven't read anything that we've written.
Okay, so I need, before we wrap up this podcast, I'm going to need 2 things from you. One of them is your vampire story, and one of them is your advice to authors. But I need to start with your sparkly vampire story.
Okay, so I mentioned publisher horror story at the start. When I won the contest, I got put with a developmental editor, and my book had already been dev edited and copy edited. I was actually going to send it to agents, but I entered this contest and I won instead. It is important, if you're a writer and you listen to this, and I think you guys will all say this, don't get matched with dev editors who don't know your genre. And
oh my God, yeah.
This dev editor, my book features vampires. You are what you eat. So if you eat a certain kind of demon, you become an undead. And my vampires in the story burn horribly in the sunlight. They turn to ash, stakes through the heart, gleefully incapacitate them. We're going back to, cut off the head, turn it sideways, nail it in a coffin, throw it with rosemary, and put it in a goddamn.
Bram Stoker would be proud of everything you're saying right now.
And so the developmental editor came back to me, though, and this was a different guy who writes military fiction. And he came back and he was like, Rick, I just don't get your book. He's like, you need to explain. He's like, why is a vampire bothered by a stake in the heart? And I'm like, listen, dude, I'm not going to explain in this book for urban fantasy fans why a vampire would be bothered by a stake in the heart. And then he's like, it feels like your main protagonist of this tale is missing half of the storyline, and you have to keep shifting to other characters because he's asleep during the daytime. Well, yeah, he's a vampire. And he's like, no, I'm going to submit to the publishing house that you need to change this because there are other popular books where vampires walk in the daytime. And I'm like, you are not the dev editor for me. He wanted to turn my book into from a multi-character perspective conspiracy tale that is happening about this event to a die-hard action series where you had Mike Auburn at the bottom of Willis Tower versus like this, this arch villain at the top, and it was like Willis Tower die-hard action scene, and I was like, a 3-act story rather than a here are 4 characters in 2 cities and what's happening, and how they coalesce together. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I've already gone through these. Like, I won the contest based off this idea. People have read the manuscript already. They already know.
That's when you gotta go. Yeah, I'm gonna hard pass on what you're saying right now.
Yeah,
Please
and
and thank you.
I did, and then the publisher had no choice but to hook me up with Girl Friday Productions. A girl named Emily was my dev editor, and she was fucking awesome because she's actually read other urban fantasy books.
Yay.
And she read my book and was like, "Oh my god, I fucking love this. Here's how to make it stronger." And cut out this shit and put this stuff in. And I was like, "Oh my god, that's a great idea." And that's what dev editors do. But
That's
yeah,
good dev
Good
editor.
dev editors do.
good dev editors do.
Instead of going, you know what? I think your vampire should sparkle.
Yeah, and I was like, dude, I am never, ever. My vampires will always burn in the sunlight.
Yeah.
Fuck that shit.
Awesome.
Hard pass.
Okay.
Right.
So I need, because we have to wrap up this part of the podcast, what is your advice to young authors out there?
Finish. I mean, you will say that time and time again, but finish. Nobody can help you. Nobody can offer advice. Nobody can do anything until you finish a basic freaking manuscript. Once you get to that point, then people can help you. Also, my other one is finding other mediums to help get your career started and find other ways. Like, think about it like a business, right? If you can't just expect that you're going to write a few novels and go off and do it. Go ahead and start blog writing, do freelance writing, go work on an RPG game, go hire yourself out to be like apply to like video game companies to do like dialogue and narrative text. There is so much need, especially in a digital age with copy and content need to be written. Find yourself a side gig where you are doing this, because honestly, writing for Geek and Sundry for me and doing articles on why Final Fantasy VII is awesome actually helped strengthen my ability to create pitch lines and copy lines and write down very tight commercial-esque prose, which became very useful as a novelist when I need to go then sell at a con. Here's my book. I got 1 sentence to sell it to you in. So
Gotta love the elevator pitch. I'm not even going to say that enough. Like, you have to have a motherfucking elevator pitch nailed down. Okay. So, Rick, shameless self-promotion. How do people find you?
I am Cranky Bolt everywhere. So on Twitter, I am at Cranky Bolt. On Facebook, I am, facebook.com/crankybolt. On Discord, I am, I don't have the numbers, but if you ask me on Twitter, I will tell you my numbers for Discord. But you can find me, Cranky Bolt, on every social media. You can.
Did you do Cranky Bolt because you're an electrician?
Yes. I played a Steam Golem in a game called City of Heroes for many years, and my handle was
okay. I'm not gonna lie.
Paragon City rules.
Rolled ourselves as characters in.
Yeah. So Paragon City all the way. I loved City Heroes. That's where I was like, oh, I am Cranky Bolt. That is my internet persona handle. Because that was my character. Because I mean, it fit as an electrician to do this. But you can find the 7th Age series on Amazon, Prince of Cats Publishing. book 2 will be coming out later this year. The Red Opera, Last Days of the Warlock, just finished its Kickstarter. We raised over $160,000. It was incredibly successful. If you are a gamer and really want an immersive multiple choice ending, that's there. You can add me on Facebook, Twitter, Discord, and secretly, I am kind of lost into the world of Genshin Impact at the moment. It's my first experience with a gacha game, but you can find me there as well at Cranky Bolt. So,
Obviously, Rick is unapproachable to people, as you can tell from what he just.
yes. I play League of Legends. If you want to play LOL with me, great. Fucking send me a friend's request.
Okay.
So,
Mark, as you're fanboying, do you have any final questions before we stop this part of the podcast?
No, I'll hit them up in literary briefs that they can follow soon. So.
Okay, Rick, you have been fucking amazing. Thank you so much for being on this podcast.
This was a blast. I would do this anytime. And yes, we are clearly going to have to game together.
No, we're gaming together. That is a foregone conclusion. And
dude,
then we're going to fucking post it on.
There is this
game bag ready.
We should. No. We won't need dice because the game that I need to run for you as a horror writer is a game called 10 Candles.
Oh man!
And we will have to stream it and run a game of 10 Candles, where every time a scene ends, you blow out a candle as 1 hour of your life ticks away until the end, and then you hauntingly play the recording that you all made at the start of the game session. And it is a beautiful one shot. And I've been looking for an excuse of people to do it. So if you can get some other writers who are in the horror genre to get together, I will gladly run a game of 10 Candles because
that is fucking happening. And yes, we're going to stream it and that is going to fucking happen. And Mark's in. I will grab a couple other people. Done.
Yeah,
we'll get Al back on and a couple others. That'll be great.
We'll get Al Dragon back. We'll get fucking Jonathan Mayberry. You will be like, oh my God, with your fucking host of people.
Jackie Sonnenberg. We'll get everybody.
Yes.
But 10 Candles. That's what we can play on stream.
Sounds
this
awesome.
Weird apocalyptic 2020 year.
I fucking love everything about that. Okay, so this has been Drinking with Authors. I've been Erica Lance.
I've been Mark Muncy from Erie, Florida.
And our guest has been Rick Heinz, and we'll see you next time.
Spend all your time waiting for that second chance, for a break that would make it okay. There's always some reason to feel not good enough, and it's hard at the end of the day. I need some distraction. Oh, beautiful release. Memories seep through my veins. Let me be empty. Oh, weightless, and maybe I'll find some peace tonight. In the arms of the angel, fly away from here, from this dark, cold hotel room, and the endlessness that you fear.
Hello, I'm Erica Lance, CEO of Four Horsemen Publications. And a host of Drinking with Authors. Are you a frustrated author? Is writing hard? Are you not getting the words out? We have the solution for you. The Author's Accountability Guide 2021. In it contains accountability, 4 muses, practice exercises. We even have an online community where you and your fellow writers can figure out what the heck you're doing wrong and how to fix it. Everything you need is contained in this book. I'm not only a sponsor, I'm also a writer. Find us at the Author's Accountability Guide because I know you're wondering how to make writing less hard.
promise that you make up for all that you lack. It don't make no difference. Escape one last time. It's easier to believe in this sweet madness, all this glorious sadness that brings me to my knees in the arms.
Okay, welcome to Drinking with Authors, Literary Briefs. I'm sufficiently drunk. I'm your host, Erica Lance. With me today is
Mark Muncy from Erie, Florida. But I'm
okay.
feeling
Our
good.
guest today is Rick Heinz. Woo! Okay, I'm going to talk about what I've literally been drinking for the last hour, and I only have a little bit left, which is 19 Crimes Uprising. Mark, what are you drinking for us?
I am on a full dose of Kepra and public spring water, so I'm doing fine.
It's this week's latest vintage, as we had mentioned earlier. and
Yes,
I'm
it is. It is.
drinking-
This expires in 2022, July 16th. So we're thinking
How does
safe.
water fucking expire? Anyway, okay, Rick, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking Misbehaving Meads, bourbon barreled aged blueberry honey mead.
I'm still fucking jealous. Anyway, listen to previous podcasts about that. So this is how much I have left in my entire bottle of wine.
Nice.
Hashtag life.
I have a decent cup left,
Um,
but I'm 2 in, so
that's okay. So rapid fire questions. I almost forgot what we were doing here. What is your favorite book of all time?
Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series, particularly book 4.
Why book 4?
Because that was the first book that Matt Cawthon managed to get his luck powers, and he really started abusing his gambler powers to win. Even though like Randall Thor was off being the main epic hero and dealing with his powers, and Nynaeve was tugging on our braid, and like they were getting involved in love triangles. Matt was over here like, I'm gonna go win at like gamblings and dice and always be lucky. I thought it was an awesome concept. So that was that. I also, I have to amend this. It's brief.
Okay.
My favorite book of all time. God damn it! Besides American Gods, because I've really associated with that, was actually King Rat by China Miéville. That's what got me into urban fantasy. It was the first book I ever read that was in the urban fantasy genre, and I really loved King Rat as a concept. The whole take was a modern day London Underground as Pied Piper storyline about Pied Piper was the one who eliminated the animalistic gods from the world.
Okay. What is your least favorite book of all time?
Ooh, okay. I don't remember the name of it, but this is actually what made me the second reason I became a writer. I was reading this book I bought from Barnes and Noble, and it was a post-apocalyptic book about the idea that the world, electricity in the world stopped working. And what happened in the book was it turned out that it was like, oh, I love this concept. What happens if no electricity happens? Planes fall out of the sky, things like that happen. There was a TV show that ended up being, it wasn't related to the book series, but it was tangentially that same idea. But then the book series turned out to just be like this author's like, here's why we're Wiccans in the forest. And, but like there was no fundamental, the rules of magic within the own world didn't work. Gunpowder didn't work. Electricity didn't work. Nothing worked, but yet human brains still worked. And yet you could still have fire, chemistry, and steam power in other cities. And I'm like, the world wouldn't fall apart that badly. We have options. And so I was reading that and I was like, this got published? And it was just bad. I didn't like it. But hey, the author put her heart and soul into it and she got published. She fucking nailed it. And so, great.
And yet you don't remember the name. So kudos to them.
Yeah, right. It's like, hey, guess what? You inspired me.
To not ever be that terrible again.
Yes.
Right. To make sure I do some research. were there any other books I really did not like? So it turns out that the book Friday by Robert Heinlein did not hold up well over time. Uh, and as a 14-year-old boy, I loved Friday. As a older, gentleman, I went back and I reread Friday, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
Did you
Um,
do you often reread books?
yes, because sadly, I'm that person. Like, I will listen to the same album a lot. I will listen to, like, I find things that I love.
That's very different than rereading the same book.
But I will go back and reread books that I love. Like, I've reread the Golden Compass series like 6 times. Because I love Philip Pullman's world in that. The Amber Spy Garage trilogy is like, one of my favorites. I'm rereading The Wheel of Time again right now. And I will splice this up with a new book in between them. Currently I'm in the middle of reading John Salzy's Ghost of War after The Old Man's Brigade. So I will splice things that I haven't read, and I think this is a curse of content creators. Sometimes you have limited time. And so sometimes when I want to veg and relax and unwind, rather than try something new, I will go back to a comfortable space and read something that I know I loved.
No, that makes sense. I think it's interesting because I don't think a lot of people necessarily like reread everything. I think there is books you reread and then there's books you read to relax. I think that's like a different almost like area because if you have to think too much about the fucking book and what's happening, you're like, this is not relaxing
It's like,
at all.
and then you've got mine like ritual reads. Like every year I read Lonesome October.
I mean, my
October.
ritual, my ritual watch is every October 30th, I will rewatch The Crow. The Crow is one of my all-time favorite movies, and ever since I was a teenager, I've watched The Crow on October 30th, and it's a Halloween, pre-Halloween tradition. And but that's me going back to I want to relax. It's a comfort space, because I will, if I get immersed into a book, I'm fucked. Like, that's it. Any semblance of me going to work the next day or productivity, I have an addictive personality, and if I make it past chapter 4 and I am hooked, I read this book by Craig Monroe called Bones of the Past, and I started reading and very recently on it, and I got hooked, and I didn't go to bed. I was up for literally 36 hours just reading this damn book, because that's how I consume media, is by binging.
What's the first book you did that with?
The first book, Jurassic Park.
Nice.
Michael Crichton. That's when it started. Ever since then, ever since I was a kid, I have always binge read books. I do not like read a chapter a day or anything. I fell into it with Jurassic Park. That was it. I begged my parents to make me go see to the movie. I had to do so many chores to be allowed to go see it. But by the time my parents had taken me to see the movie, I'd already read the book like 4 times. Like that.
So we're older than you on that. Mark, what did you read? What was your first binge read that you can remember?
My first binge read I can remember was either The Hobbit or Sherlock Holmes. It was one of the two, because I've discovered them both like within a week of each other, and I don't remember which one was first. But then somebody was like, "Oh, if you like this one, read that," at the library, and I did that the next week, and that was my weekend. And I remember those being like my 2 favorite weekends of all time, was sitting in the woods in Kentucky reading those books. Yeah, and that's I was like, I gotta write stuff. I gotta be in these worlds. And then D&D came out like right around then and changed everything.
So my first binge read that I remember was Ender's Game.
Okay.
Good one.
And I remember reading that and I could not put that fucking book down. Because regardless, anybody listening to this fucking podcast, read the book, don't watch the movie necessarily. Yeah. Like, I
I think that's like a rule of general writerdom of like, come on, read the books.
So you say that, I actually, because who told me this was their favorite book? God, was it fucking Jonathan Mayberry? I don't remember. I love you, Jonathan Mayberry, so don't hold this against me if this wasn't you. I actually listened to the audiobook of The Haunting of Hill House.
Yes.
Ooh. Oh, no.
my favorite
Audiobooks are a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
But I have to say, amazing. But I actually love what they did with the script and what they did with the TV show.
Yeah.
In comparison
It's different.
to the book.
That is totally, and that's a sign of a good writer's room and great fandom, because you can have content that is movie and scripts and shows that is just as good and drives you to Battle Angel Alita movie that just came out. I have on my back is a tattoo of the original cover of the manga of Battle.
Let's
Angel
see
Alita.
it. Come on, share it.
Oh God! All
Come
right.
on, you're gonna share your fucking. Let's do this. We're sharing.
All right, we're sharing skin here. This is where drinking with authors is gone. Wait, hold on. All right.
That's not a
You
view.
gotta unwire. Yeah, this is become an ordeal now.
What is drinking with authors? It just went.
Wow. And we lost
I
him.
don't even know what happened. I love everything
him.
about what's happening right now.
Killed him, Erica.
You know what, Mark? I'd like less judgment from your very creative ass at this point.
That's it.
All right.
He's
I'm
frozen.
back.
Oh, I thought I had a seizure.
Okay,
we're good.
I am frozen, but that happened because my headset attached to that. So,
There it is.
Oh wow!
Oh, man.
so
That's fucking awesome.
that tattoo, I'm a big fan of the manga, but the movie is fucking awesome and pays so much tribute that I was like, I love this. I also love this, 46 volume manga series that I love, but the movie was still awesome in its own right. You can have both.
So, what was your favorite book turn movie when you were younger? Like the first one that you're like, that was fucking awesome.
Okay, so it wasn't a movie, but I remember as a kid, I really loved the Stand TV show.
Yeah.
Oh.
It held up.
I said Jurassic Park was the first binge read that I ever did. My mom was a big Stephen King fan, and the second book that I remember reading was Needful Things. So I write a lot about demons and a lot about cutting a deal. Even the Red Opera is about freaking warlocks and cutting deals with patrons. I didn't realize how much Needful Things probably had a subtle influence on
Leland Gaunt, baby.
my
What
life.
about you, Mark? What is your first book to movie that you were like, this actually nailed it?
That actually did okay. I would say The Haunting, the original 1963 Haunting from The Haunting of Hill House, the original book. And they nailed it. And that's
you just stole my shit. How do you do that on my own podcast?
I'm sorry, but you're the one who brought up Haunting of Hill House, and I would say that because it really nailed it. I mean, the TV show was great, but I thought they screwed up the ending. I thought a happy ending for Happy Ghosts was not a good thing. Spoiler for your old TV show. But the book was so crazy, and you really, it was Eleanor this and that, and then the movie just blew my mind as a kid.
You just pretend to not give a spoiler on a book from like 1963?
No, I totally gave a spoiler. So.
Hey,
that is one thing I'll say about that particular book was you don't know how much was in Eleanor's head.
Yep, exactly. And that's all some of the great classic horrors. That's always the thing is it in their head or is it not? And that's, I mean, when we're doing this now, it's like when we're interviewing people, it's like, did this person really see this or did they just think they saw this? And that's why it's so interpretive. And that's what's really cool about what I do is I get to see, okay, did this really happen? And if it did, why did it happen and stuff like that. Now, my question, I have a question for Rick real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
Rapid fire questions. All right, Rick, as a classic sci-fi horror, fan, all around nerddom, what is your favorite monster and why?
ooh. So
I have an answer too. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, I want yours too, Rick.
right. I mean, obviously, I'm a huge fan of vampires. but I'm not going to cast them as my favorite monster. They're, even though they are a close second. Same with liches. Obviously, I could go through the Dungeons and Dragons book and be like, oh, I love this side, but I think my favorite current monster is a creature called Huggin Molly out of Alabama, who is a large barreled woman who shows up to kidnap children on the eras of storms during tornadoes in Alabama, and the kids are gone. Because what was really the story was born was, during tornado season, people would lose children at that time. And I love cryptids. I love these American mythos monsters that are born and kind of get a sort of life of their own via the internet. Slenderman, Siren Head, things that are modern myths and legends, because I love the idea of collective human belief spawning our worst fears. So I like a lot of modern legends, even though I do like pay a lot of homage and really enjoy classic things. Other than that, Lucifer. There is a lot of text you can write in the idea of, is the devil a good guy? There's a lot of space there. I love religion. I have a minor in theology. So every culture has different aspects of a devil in a different type. And there's a lot of lore to explore. And it's exciting.
So mine's going to be a little bit interesting. I love the idea of urban legends like Sasquatch and Mothman and stuff like that, because, I had this bookmark when I was a kid, and it said, it had a unicorn on it, but it said some things have to be believed to be seen. And I felt that was true because, Mark, you go to haunted places and things like that, and I'm not going to get into my theory on ghosts and things like that, but I wonder how much stuff is there that is discounted because people have to rationalize an occurrence versus what's actually there. Like, you look at Sasquatch and stuff like that, and as much as you can go, let me rationalize this, you go, there's been a fucking hairy ape man in so many cultures for so long. You kind of got to go, is there something left over from the prehistoric time? Right? Is there something that exists? And people just have to go, nope, I don't believe in that to be true. And like, I'm a firm believer in ghosts. I will say that, not drunk and drunk.
Hey,
I'm a firm believer in ghosts. And I've seen that.
Yeah, I am
right?
from fucking Chicago. The Rosemary Cemetery mythos. I have my apprentice school was down the goddamn street.
Wow.
There are legends and things that I have grown up with, like, and it's funny is I am an atheist. So, and, having even a minor in theology and going through this stuff, like, oh my God, I love these ideas of urban legends. John Dillinger, did he really die outside of, when he was gunned down because like his pistol was stolen, days later? I love those gaps in history. Those are so fun to play around in your imaginary sandbox. But
Mark,
so
I'm not going to plant anything in your head, but I'm just saying you could go hang out with Rick in Chicago and write about.
I think Erie, Chicago might be coming because Rick, if you like this sort of thing and you want to learn about books, they never miss a chance to plug. Erie, Florida is full of myths, monsters, and legends of Florida, and that's our my series. So
I didn't know what
and we did
had written
illustrations for Erie, Alabama, which had Hug and Molly.
What's funny is my third book is set in Appalachia. So I have to go to Appalachia and go wander around Appalachia. And I've been studying Appalachian monsters and folklore for about 3 years now. And I've mountain biked some of the Appalachian trails at this point, because being there is very different than but this idea of cryptids and things that are there, there's not enough mead that I have at my table for you and I to have a conversation that could go on for many days.
Mothman, Grafton Monster, all that. Oh my god, but that's my new book is just we're versed in that. So it's
and mine is what happens when Starbucks finds them and decides to sell them to other people for power.
That's fantastic. So
okay, so totally weird question, and Mark, you get to answer this too, but so I'm giving you advance warning, but Rick has to answer it right away. If you could be any supernatural creature you've written about, what would you be?
God, I would 100% be a warlock from my books. I would be a warlock. I would love the ability to bend reality around me to my will. This idea that reality is a collective consciousness that a bunch of people can get involved with. If you consume the heart of an angel and a demon in my book series, you forsake your soul. It sucks because you don't have a say in that vote anymore, but you get power. And imagine what you could do in that world. Like, the joke that I've made is I'm either chaotic good or lawful evil in D&D alignments. Never give me superpowers because I would go full Doctor Doom, I think, in this idea. I know it sounds weird.
We are best friends already. I'm just letting you know we are best friends. We're gonna resolve that.
There's shit in this world that needs to get solved, and it's not happening on my time schedule. So I would want that power to do that. And so I would definitely go with being a warlock. I would not want to be a vampire unless I was given about 2 years of time to work the fuck out, get a diet down, make sure my skin complexion is fucking perfect. Because if I'm going to be an immortal ass creature that is never going to die, I got to clean some shit up here. All right. Like,
see, that's way too much effort. I can already tell you if I was a vampire, I'd be more Malkavian. I'd be fucking nuts. And that's where I would be. Because I would be like the crazy person that you're like, don't talk to her, don't make eye contact. It'll be good.
This is going to come as a shocking surprise, but on like literally thousands of tests of which vampire White Wolf clan are you, no matter how many times I try to end up as Tremere, I universally end up as Bruja.
Really? You're Bruja?
It's that union activism.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's 100%. 100%.
So, Malkavian, Mark. Malkavian are the crazy fucking people. Mark, what would you be?
I'd be. I'm most likely Toreador, but for that. But
that's what
I would. God, you whiny ass bastard!
No. Toreador have a soul separate rent. Toreador are the best clan in Vampire the Masquerade because they are literally nothing but people who are immortal, surrounded by beautiful people that get to enjoy music and have no fucking clan flaw. Oh my god, your clan flaw is you find shit pretty.
Yeah,
if you're gonna be an immortal, fucking, I will take that.
All I'm gonna say is Zamichi, Mark, what kind of person would you be? What superhero, whatever?
What monster would I be, or something? I like I said, I think we've discussed it before. I think I am one of the deal makers. I'd be a Faustian type guy. I would be not necessarily a demon, but more like the trickster guys. It's like you come to me, I make it happen for you.
Are you sure you would be a Crossroads demon? Because I feel
that's
like
possible too. I can teach you how to play a guitar. For your soul at the cross.
I'm not hearing so much. I'm not hearing so much demon though. A force of chaos. I'm going to draw that line and say it's a devil.
Yeah, I would say more devil. More
devil. Here's your contract.
Yeah, but I would just say more. Trickster deal maker. Not exactly devil, not exactly demon, because it might work out. It might be a better thing for everybody. So that's that's. I just want to help.
It would more than likely never be a better thing for everybody.
Exactly, but I'm gonna have it may not work out the way you want, but it's gonna be damn funny, and I'm gonna enjoy it.
So ironically, it's funny. I've talked to my friends about this. As much as I'd love to think I'd be a vampire, besides a Malkavian who are crazy fucking people, I would be a fucking werewolf. Because if you piss me off, I go full fucking change, mama bear. Like I'm gonna rip your fucking face off.
I've only seen that once. It was terrifying.
I think we've all played the game, especially if you were into White Wolf Urban Fantasy. Like in Changeling, I end up as a freaking redcap or troll. In Werewolf, I know I'm a goddamn shadow.
Have you ever played the ghost game of that?
Was it Wraith?
Wraith the
Wraith.
Oblivion is my first role-playing game of all time ever, and we were talking about different storytelling styles. The reason I mentioned the word ST or storyteller when I refer to game STs is because you can tell at this point what game line people played first by the terms that they use. And in my school, there was a bunch of really cute girls that were playing Wraith the Oblivion and on the chess team. And I was a part of the football club. Like
I'm
everybody
sorry,
else,
did
which
you
is-
just say cute girls on the
Yes.
chess team? I just need to clarify that. in
Yes,
advance.
I did. And I was walking past with my football helmet, and I was like, I'm not going to practice. Drop
What is
football helmet.
actually? Wait a minute. I need to. This is like an unreality. So, Mark, check me on this. Cute girls playing a role-playing game, and you were on the
In
football
the
team?
80s.
Yes.
In the 80s,
No,
right?
this is 90s.
Oh, okay, so it
I-
wasn't as rare then. Yes.
I was
I'll say
born in the
this was
80s.
the 80s. I would be like, all right, this is a new fiction world.
Yeah, exactly.
But I had walked in, I was like, nope. I was always like, I was on the C team in football, dude. I was a scrawny, nerdy kid. I was like way on the freaking backbench. But I walked past and like they're playing a game, Wraith the Oblivion, and they're in chess club, and I was like, I am totally playing this. And that was actually I had the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons book. I had already read a bunch of stuff, but I had nobody to play with. But my first group was actually Wraith the Oblivion, run with 3 players by candlelight, which is why I like 10 candles, where one person played a shadow, one person played a ghost, and one person was the storyteller.
Nice.
So I have to tell you, we're totally nerding out, and anybody listening to this podcast, I don't give a fuck. So I played. It's cool. It's my podcast. I don't care. I'm not sponsored.
Erica. We're just here for the ride.
Yeah. I love you, Mark. So one of the first games I played in Wraith, not first games ever, but we played this game and it had the literal best line I've ever had in a role-playing game. So one of the characters, if you play Wraith, just to get everybody up to speed, you have to play your character and then you play somebody's character that's trying to drag them into the darkness. That's how Wraith works. So you play your character and you play somebody who's trying to drag another character into the darkness.
Mhm.
I hope I'm giving that. I'm drawing.
No, you're right. Somebody's playing a shadow.
Pretty
Somebody's
darn close. Yep.
Yeah.
You're dead, and your shadow doesn't want to keep living. So if you have 2 players, you're each playing each other's shadow, trying to get you to like move the fuck on past the afterlife. But your Wraith character is like, I got shit I gotta do. All right, I
Thank
got
you,
people
Rick.
I gotta save.
That sums it up. So one of the characters, their entire character was the first person to die in the Star Wars series on the Rebel side. So and he died in a car accident. And another one of the characters was a lion tamer who got eaten by a lion. So he's on the road looking at his dead body. And she pulls up and goes, if it makes you feel any better, I was eaten by a lion. And I don't think we could play for a fucking half an hour because we were laughing so hard because he literally was in a British accent. He's like, how is that supposed to make me feel better? I died. It was one of the best moments. However, one of the characters played a Catholic priest, and in the first gaming session, I was his shadow, and I took him down, and they're like, we can't play if you keep doing that.
I have ended LARPs because storytellers let me play a character that was meant to erode vampire players' humanity, and that is a recipe for disaster if you let me mess with people's consciousness at a LARP and get them to give up their own humanity for power. And the storyteller's not going to let them go on a path. Anyway, there's a whole separate drinking with geeks idea.
We can do a podcast of. Okay, let's talk about a little bit about writing because, oh my God, I'm getting off base. You are one of my new favorite people, by the way, Rick. Mark is one of my favorite people in the entire world. I'm so blessed to have met him. But
this is a mutual feeling. I had no idea I was among the similar Oh yes, there are so many threads we could discuss.
Yeah.
Yes, we could. But let's talk about your writing. Are you a plotter or a pantser?
I am a
Or
plotter.
a plancer?
No, I'm a plotter. I will do, because I've had to do so much freelance blogging and copy posts. I will write. When I write a novel, I sit down and I write the entire novel in 15 words, which is one of the hardest exercises to do. And
Wait.
so
What?
I will write my entire novel in 15 words. And
I'm
that
sorry,
is-
you have to explain that more.
So my idea, and the way this works, is I will take my entire plot line, like heretics usher in the seventh age by summoning forth the return of demon kings and magic, bringing about the apocalypse. I will find 15 words to describe what my overall story is about, and this takes me about a month. Right, condensing an entire book to 15 words is fucking impossible. So I will do
Wait,
that.
why the fuck do you do that?
I do that because then I can get my plot line down to like the core base element. My sequel is Magic Returns. Magic Returns, companies brand it, special abilities can be yours, just sign on the dotted line. Right? Like this idea, it gives me a good pitch line, it gives me something to work with, and it also refines my idea down to here is the core story that I'm telling.
Okay,
And
so we
then
have 15 words now.
we have 15 words, and then I will go.
I don't think I can even be constrained to 15 words in one
Right,
sentence.
it's hard. It is hard. It is a fucking exercise.
That's
Then I will take that.
screenwriter trick.
But
you have to get the elevator pitch down to one sentence.
But then I will take
I'm a
that.
screenwriter, Mark. Shut up.
Then I'll take that sentence and I'll turn that sentence into 5 sentences, however many acts I have in the book, where each sentence is a full act. And then I will take each of those sentences and turn those acts into full paragraphs. And that's partly because I'm writing conspiracy a lot in my books. I'm writing urban fantasy conspiracy. So I have to make sure that I have that structure so I could draw those like hidden.
Where the fuck did you come up with this theory to do this? I'm not saying it's not brilliant, because if it works for you, brilliant. But what? That's several question marks. I didn't probably emphasize that enough, but let me do it again. What? There.
I literally Googled how to write horror short stories.
Who the fuck did you click on?
I don't know. I
think
don't
that's
know.
Tim Wagoneer. I'm almost positive that's Tim.
I sat down to do NaNoWriMo like 5 years ago, and I had no idea where to start. And I knew I wanted to write horror. I knew I wanted to write conspiracy. And I was like, all right. I already knew an idea of like, here's my world setting, here's all this shit that I wanted to do, but like, how do you actually structure a fucking novel?
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna Google it. And
I love that you just said that.
somebody had this like method, and I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot, and it fucking worked. And then I've used it ever since.
So so you do this 5-second thing. I didn't say it right. What is it?
15 words, 5 sentences, 5 paragraphs.
Okay. Do you then write like a synopsis of your whole book, or do you just then write the book?
No, after I get done with the 5 paragraphs, that's my outline, I write the book.
Do your characters, because you alluded to this earlier, do your characters then take off from you?
Yes, they do. Because it's important for me to leave room, because I am a storyteller and a role player myself. I can immerse when I have soundtracks for every character that I write, and so when
you post those soundtracks?
I don't. I should.
What the fuck, Rick?
I am bad at marketing. All right, that's the part that I suck at. But I have soundtracks.
You are having a conversation outside of this podcast about this point.
Because I have soundtracks for every fucking character, and I will listen to those soundtracks. And it's a lot of like, weird metal with lyrics that nobody can understand, or unless you speak
it
that
doesn't
language.
matter if you sold 3,000 books and a shitty fucking publisher I insist before this podcast is issued, you fucking send those lists out so your audience can be immersed in that shit.
Because I have soundtracks for every character, and it's like I will listen to that soundtrack and then I will write for that character. And obviously I was talking about it earlier, and that was the illusion. One of my characters killed themselves, and I was like, no, you fucking asshole. You can't do that. I did not say you could do that. My character was like, no, fuck you, Rick. I'm doing this. It makes sense. I'm going. And I'm like, God damn it. And here's the worst part. All right, this is going to make you laugh. I went and I checked. I cannot believe I am saying this. I've never said this ever. I went and checked his character sheet. He had that flaw.
Oh my God! Wait a minute. Do you have character sheets for?
Yes, I have character sheets.
No.
I took a creative writing class and I was laughing my ass off because the teacher was like, "Okay, class, I'm at College of DuPage in Chicago, and the creative writing teacher is running this." She's like, "Okay, class, I want you to, as you're penning your novel and your idea for your characters, I want you to write down what your character's inner nature is like, what they're really like, and I want you to write down what they project to the outside world, and then I want you to write down a list of their attributes. How are they physically in adjective descriptors, how they are socially, how they are mentally, and then I want you to really channel in about what merits make them special and what flaws they have." And I'm just like,
So
here's 100 White Wolf
I
characters.
have to ask this because I've never done this. Oh my God. Mark, if you've done this, I need you to chime in. Do you have these character sheets? Rick, do you have these character sheets?
I do have them. Actually, one of them is in the jacket of the cover on my main book. I still
So have you not published other character sheets?
I've not published any of the character sheets.
Me and you are going to have a fucking conversation after this podcast that includes this fucking soundtrack and includes you fucking publishing these character sheets.
But I am that person. I have character sheets, and I was laughing. I could not contain. I shit you not. I could not stop laughing in this creative writing class that I realized that nobody else in the creative writing class was a role player or gamer. And this is shit. When we as gamers and players of RPGs create characters in novel universes, we are naturally inclined and used to building our characters as you would if you were to structure that skill set. So for us, we have a leg up in this idea that we're already used to doing this. We're used to describing. You take a vampire LARP sheet, it's nothing but adjectives, negative traits, merits, flaws, nature, fucking demeanor. Like that is.
Look at the biggest names in fantasy right now. You Jim Butcher and Patrick Rothfuss and George R. Martin. They're all gamers. They're all old DMs. These are all their old campaigns. You know, and that's and their characters. And that's honestly, that was my stupid American Luchador book I did years ago. That was a character sheets for a Bureau 13 campaign that never.
For the record, that is not a stupid book, Mark. We've already discussed it.
But that idea is, I went and I checked. I can't believe I say it, because there's a part of that step in that I think Tim Wagner, you mentioned. I think that actually is
I'm pretty sure it was
the snowball method. And there's a part where you're supposed to write an entire Excel spreadsheet about the character with the different chapter and their plots. And I was like, no, I can just make a character sheet. Here you go, done.
Okay, Rick, I'm going to require, even though I have literally no say-so over your life whatsoever, but as the host of this podcast and the avid drinker, completely empty bottle of wine, I'm going to need you to post these character sheets and the soundtracks for the characters.
That I can do. And that's crazy, because I have them literally, like, you're here in a Zoom window in one file away right here. All of them exist.
Literally, Mark just had a nerdgasm.
Yeah.
Whatever the equivalent of an orgasm, he had a nerdgasm with you saying that. I'm going to need you to post that.
I am a fan of the first book, and I am eagerly awaiting the second. So I'm one of those. I don't wait till the series is over, because I'm an idiot. I read everything. And,
you're not an idiot. Hello, that pays our bills. Read all the books.
I had to take a pause. Like the worst part is like a dystopia is so fucking fun. I can tell that because I was a debut author in the first book, and then I have written a ton of other. I started ghostwriting. I wrote a few Minecraft novels. I dabbled my toes into a few other ghostwriting books. I started writing RPG stuff. By the time I wrote my sequel, I knew I'd evolved as a writer, and like I love. You know what? I will do this. Have you guys seen the cover art for the sequel?
No.
I got my cover art in, and I will give that to you guys, so you can
Look at we get an inside, Mark.
What?
I'm attributing that to you right now, but we get an inside to this book.
Yeah,
flip it out.
God, I mean, if we're on, like, I don't know if this is being recorded. I can actually pull it up and share screen to everybody.
Share screen. Share screen. It's pre-recorded, but
all right.
share screen.
Yep.
You have
right,
to
that I can do.
record because my podcast consigliere is like, you are so fucking drunk. What are you doing? It's
Right.
fine. He's wonderful.
So, all right, here we go. Zoom Wonderfuls. Where is that share screen button?
It's on the bottom.
Here, got it. Oh,
Okay.
you have disabled participant screen sharing.
Oh,
What the fuck?
Erica.
I'm fixing it. I just fixed it. Can you do it? Why am I allowed technical difficulties? I don't know.
All right.
Can you do it
so
now?
Let's try this again. All right. So this is the front cover of my sequel.
Ooh.
And then this is what goes on the back of the book.
Nice.
Fucking A, that is awesome.
So
who's the artist?
So the artist is Vivian. She goes by Boss Meetze. Ashley Witter did the cover for my first book, which this is the art for like my first book. Ashley Witter did the first book cover art. Actually, I have a ton of I have a ton of art because I collect artwork from my book series. Like this is my character Kira. This is a thing I have made for a coffee mug from the sequel.
Do you have the coffee mug?
I am making the coffee mug with this.
Nice.
And like this is, you know, I have just a ton of art that I collect. But Boss Meets Vivian, I met her at a convention, ASIN. She did these beautiful Evangelion pictures, and she agreed to do. She read my first book. She loved it, and she drew my Jane and the character that's on the front. The front cover.
That's incredible.
That is fucking amazing.
So, yeah, that's like I am done. Like I've written the text, I've written the drafts, I'm done with dev edits. It's literally a matter of just me sending it off to my publisher and getting it out there. And the outlines for books 3 are already done. So I am
when are we
committed.
gonna get book 2?
I don't have a release date. I know that I am done. I'm polishing up the final ending in November.
Rick, Tiberius, I always say that when I'm mad at people. Tiberius, Heinz, we need a release date.
I don't have one. But also, just so you know, in my local LARPs, Tiberius was a notorious Setite. That everybody would shout his name, Tiberius.
I did that with my kids. I did that with her. I was like, I'd say their name and then Tiberius, Nazgul, Death Eater. They knew how mad I was by how many characters into the call I got.
But it's so the book is there. I actually have this one great artwork piece of like this agent sitting like in the limousine with like the Illuminati triangle behind him. Like I got all kinds of stuff because my shtick that I like doing as a writer is I like giving artists my book and I say draw your favorite scene, but I'm not going to give you any direction. So they draw their favorite characters, their favorite scenes, what they interpret in their own minds from it. And it's all turned out great. So,
Rick, you are so much incredibly fun. You are an incredibly fun person.
No, this is a mutually incredibly fun because I don't know if you noticed, but we are all bouncing off of each other like a bunch of
I'll
freaking
say this has been
skulls in a
pretty good.
room.
I
So
love everything about this. We are going to do this 10 candles thing. I'm going to figure out how to do it. I'm going to email you. We're going to record it. It's going to be Drinking with Authors, 10 candles.
Let's wait till after October because all the horror authors are busy right now. But we'll get
Yes.
them.
You know what?
we're all
Shut
doing
the hell up. Nobody needs your I'm a big fucking deal bullshit right
Okay,
now.
here's my question back for you though. What is your favorite 2-sentence horror story?
Ooh. I like my favorite was the one where the girl says, Dad, there's a monster in my closet. And then he goes to the closet. There's no monster in your closet. And he goes to the closet and the daughter is there, says, Dad, there's a monster in my bed.
You know what's funny is that is actually my favorite 2-sentence horror story.
That's
The
so good.
second one,
Don't tell him
As a
that.
parent.
You can't deal with Mark when you tell him that.
the second one I have was the last man on Earth was alone in his room. There was a knock at the door.
Or the phone rings. That was always a good one too. Yeah.
Okay.
They wanted to sell, and they were telling me that my warranty had expired on my car. So
Mark, is your nerddom fully complete at this point?
I'm spent. I'm done. So it was wonderful. And Rick, thank you so much for coming on. And I'm a old school RPGer, and so Red Opera was looking great to me, and I was happy to kickstart it. And then Seventh Age just blew me away. So I'm excited for the next book. So
Thank you so
Rick,
much.
Because this podcast is going to air in a few weeks, I need you to give me the launch date of your book because we absolutely fucking need that. We're going to hook up to how to get signed copies of your books because I know literally I could give that to Mark and his head would explode. See?
I'll see him at a Bard's Tower event at some point. So
Okay, you know what? Shut up. Nobody needs you to show off with your epicness, Mark. Literally nobody.
No. He's got to come to Florida. That's the tricky.
I am. Apparently, I'm coming down to a Florida convention in February.
Are you
When
going
are
to
you
Pensacon?
coming to Florida?
I think I'm coming to Pensacon.
Oh wow! Yay! I might be there too. So that'd be awesome.
So I'm coming down to Pensacon. I have a lot this year, right? We did the Red Opera. I have other stuff. Hopefully by then, my stuff is underway. I have a release date by then. I know what's coming out.
We need to talk to your author about release dates. We're going to have to work on that because we're going to need you to have shameless self-promotion that involves a release date.
Yeah, I just don't have it yet because I haven't turned it in to my Lexi yet at the Bard's Tower.
You haven't turned it into your publisher yet?
Not yet because I still have. Okay, this is kind of funny. Is one of my developmental editor notes from Catherine, who I fucking love because she's awesome. She said at the end of my sequel, I need to tie up what happens to Jane's lost scrunchies and what happens to her cats.
Oh, that's important.
Because those are a great end to the book, surprisingly. And I do have to write that chapter, which is my first day of NaNoWriMo on November 1st. And she is correct because I don't know if you can relate, but have you ever had your hair ties stolen by a freaking cat and you don't know what to do and you need to find them? And then next thing you know, the apocalypse happens around you. The last thing you need to remember is where the fuck is my goddamn hair tie?
No, that's true. My cat is an asshole. She's a calico and she's literally an asshole. I have this cat and I got her because I was like, you know what? I need some companionship. Biggest mistake I ever fucking made. Because she is pretty much a fucking demon. That is like, I'm going to be in your house. I'm actually going to offer you no comfort at all, but you're required to feed me and care for me for however fucking long I decide to be here.
Nice.
That is my cat, and I named her Ripley because she was found in a storm drain. So many regrets around the situation.
But yeah, I have one in terms of developmental edits. You have to listen to your dev editors sometimes, especially when they have a really great idea. And my book has already been through the beta reader process twice. It's on its fourth draft. It's through a professional dev editor, and I'm in my last 2 chapters of finishing that dev edit, and then it's off to copy editing, which is a much quicker process. Copy
So-
editing is
What I'm hearing is you're going to finish it the first week of November.
yep.
So it should be done by the second or third week of November, and we'll
Yep.
have a motherfucking release date. Is that what I'm hearing?
I feel pressured to come up with-
I do that to people.
She does
Mark,
that. She does that.
Look,
I'll tell
I will guarantee you this. Here's the funny part is now it's like, oh God, I better fucking finish it on the first week of November. Like I don't have an excuse. I am
Hold you to the fire,
now
man.
cornered.
Hold you to the fire.
So that's legit and I fucking love it. But yes, I can commit to this. I will turn my book into my publisher by the second.
There you go. There you go.
yay! Okay, so when is the sequel after that? When are you intending on getting
What's
that
book
shit?
3? Oh my God.
What am I saying to write book 3? Actually, I'm writing this game company called XYZ Game Labs that have a game coming out in 2022 called Heinz. And the idea of this game is that you're at the edge of time, and these 4 corporations are going back through time and stealing time from different timelines to profit from them and then extend the universe's timeline. It's an escape room mini puzzle board game.
Awesome.
The CEO of the company read my novel and was like, I know the perfect person to come up with 1,000 ways to end the world in a sarcastic fashion. We're going to contact Rick. I'm going to write those like narrative design tracks for Hindsight. And then after that, I'm on book 3.
Okay, so I appreciate, and that sounds fucking amazing, but you've not given me a motherfucking timeline.
Because that was my attempt at deflection. It didn't
That was-
work. Shit.
It was
I'm
so
busted.
close. So
Um,
close.
I have it outlined. I actually was planning on it this NaNoWriMo. If I get my book done and I turn it in.
What do you mean if? You have
Right,
one
I know.
fucking week to get your book done.
And what's funny is I'm only 2 chapters away from being done. So when that's done, my plan for NaNoWriMo was to start writing. What usually happens with me is I start writing, just like binge reading. I don't stop, and I
Yep.
go all the way. NaNoWriMo does not end for me in November. I keep writing at the same pace. all the way.
So early next year, we're gonna have a release date for your 3rd novel.
Yes, that I'm comfortable with.
So, Rick, I'm requiring you, besides the 10 candles, which I'm going to make happen with so many amazing people, you are coming back on my podcast in the beginning of 2021. Mark, straight face. I need you straight face with me. You're coming back at the beginning of 2021 to talk about your 3rd book.
That I can do, especially since I can even tell you the 3rd book is about Trouble Jones in New Orleans.
I fucking love New Orleans.
That as the Shadowlands or the idea of purgatory coming back and all of these dead souls coming back into the world.
Yeah.
All of my heroes in my cover art have been atop a skyscraper looking down. The 3rd book cover art is actually Trouble Jones, who's a zombie in the same coat, tattered as the first 2 books, looking up. I already have the outline done. Like that shit
Good.
is fucking.
So NaNoWriMo is super rush for you because I'm now that we're best friends, because I feel we're best friends.
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna
the fact that you and I have both done this together. And by the way, anybody who's
I'm
listening
obfuscating.
but didn't see the video, there was a weird slapping sound. That was me playing rock paper scissors like a.
It was not
giant
what you thought.
dork. All right, that was how we resolved our like challenges to different who's the most important vampire in the room.
Yes. Well, obviously, Mark is the most important vampire in the room. We all
Oh.
know that. Okay, Rick, how do people find you? Shameless self-promotion.
Rick Heinz writes at gmail.com, Cranky Bolt everywhere else on the internet, from League of Legends to Discord to Twitter to Facebook. It is Cranky Bolt. But if you have an actual writing question, Rick Heinz writes at gmail.com.
So what that means is if you want to stalk him and dress up like him, make it happen.
Yep.
This has been Drinking with Authors Literary Briefs. It's been fucking amazing. I've made a new best friend in Rick Heinz. I have been Erica Lance.
I've been Mark Muncie from Erie, Florida.
And we will see you next time. Go ahead, Rick. Do it.
Oh, I'm Rick Heinz from Chicago. Oh my God, hi.
Yes.
Okay. And we'll see you next time.